everybody, it is Sophie Oliver Art here. So today I'm going to show you guys how to animate on Procreate. So first thing I'm doing is I am mapping out the base of how long and how many frames I will be doing before I go ahead with the animation process. The idea is to help you locate where the frames are going and where the model of the character you want is going. And it will give you a really clear idea of how many frames you're doing and how much movement you're going to do. So the shorter the object is, the more frames there's going to be, and the longer the frames away means faster the frames will be. So we're now going ahead with doing the model and go ahead with the shape. As you can see, if you've been following me on Instagram for quite some time, that my art style might seem a little bit like declined, but the idea is the animation process is keeping it simple. Procreate does have this new adaptation of animating, such as the GIF option or the MP4 option for small films. The idea of animation on here is that you can create little cute GIFs and keep it as simple as possible. So as you can see, I've just done the layout of the shape, so where the tail is, the upper torso, and where the fin is going to be. So now that we've done that part, we can then start doing some smaller movements or plan ahead of how the shape is going to progress. Like I say, animation is a very time-consuming process. So once you've done that, you then duplicate a layer that you created. This will give you an idea that the upper torso stays as it is, but the idea is to help you understand the shape of the tail and the fin is going to be. So when you are duplicated, you then erase off the previous image, and then you start creating a more of a different shape of the previous image. This way it's going to help you start animating and make it a bit flowy. The upper torso of the mermaid will stay still, but the tail will move. Then you just go in and just create a new shape. So now that you've done that, you then repeat the process over and over, and you'll see it now with the speeded up process. Okay, so now you've done the layers and also the frames of the tail flicking, we're now going to see how it's progressing. So if you go onto animation GIF, then you can see the process. It's really important that you tick all the boxes on the layering part of the Procreate tab, so you can see how much of a progress you've done. So therefore it looks quite good and flowy, so that's great. Now we can start adding in some colour. And there's an easiest option to do that. Make sure you tick off all the boxes of the layers, and then do the color chart. Make another layer so the color chart won't actually appear in the animation itself. So I put in a layer underneath everything, and I typed in a color chart. This whole idea will help you, especially when you're colouring the tail and the torso of the model. After that, then you rename the layer and you call it color chart. Keeps it simple and makes you less confused. Once you've done that, then you make another layer. You make another layer so you don't actually have those harsh outlines. This will give it a really nice flowy effect. Once you've done that, you then put in the full colour block, which will give the mermaid tail and the color of itself like a blockish color. It kind of blocks out the background colors, so it won't mess the mermaid tail or anything else up. You go around the lines, and then when you're ready, go on to the color chart blob and then put in the color blob. Do the same again with everything else. Make sure that you use an underlayer under the lines of the character that you're coloring in. If you do want to actually just colour in the tail and the character itself by its first layer and the outside layer, you can, but in my personal perspective, I actually prefer doing underlayer so I don't actually have just a really horrible sharp outline outside it. So then you do the same again, underlayer, fade the outline out so you can see the colour of it quite well, and just keep going the same process. It's faster approach if you just select the colour of the colour chart wheel, which is the corner on the right side of the top corner of the colour chart, get the blob colour and then just blob it in. Once you've done that, just carry on the process. It's a much faster approach of animating, I have to say. Now that you see what you do, you just carry on and repeat the process over and over again. Okay guys, so we have just finished the colorization. We're now going to select all of these to open and see, and we're going to have a look through the process preview with the animation GIF and see a preview of how it's coming along. So let's take a look in just a moment. Once we've got all the things, all the scenes and clips all on show, we're going to have a look at the preview of how the animation is looking. And so far it's looking really smooth, lovely stuff. Now we're going to have another layer where we're going to see the under of the darker detail. So that is such as shading and facial features and hair. Just to keep it simple, I'm just going to keep it exactly the same. So like I say guys, keep it nice and simple for yourself. Once you've done everything there, we are then going to move on and do other things. The idea of this is to kind of give it more of a natural kind of look for the character, which is actually really nice. Now I'm going to add in some hair, just keeping it nice and simple. I could make the hair move if I wanted to, but I could do that in another video for hair movement, but because it's Mermaid Month, just going to keep it nice and simple. Once I've done the hair, I then add in some facial features such as the eye and eyebrow. I seem to draw this shape quite odd, so I will probably just keep it simple as possible. Once that is done, just repeat the process, keep on copying the layer, duplicate the hair and dark features. So just keep duplicating the dark layer with the hair in the character over the top, over the bold colour, so therefore it will go on top of it. It'll keep the torso exactly the same, the hair will stay exactly the same, but the whole idea is you just keep on duplicating. There might be some little mistakes with the bold colour, such as overcolour, but it doesn't really matter too much unless you're OCD about everything, but like I say, this is a really fun challenge in the social media for artists, so I'm just keeping it nice and simple, especially with Procreate, because it's still kind of new to most of us. Anyway, like I say guys, just keep repeating over and over and over, and then you'll get there. Now this is my favourite part of doing the mermaid, is the scales. Now you don't actually have to be absolutely precise with it, but I enjoy it because scales are unpredictable. So the brush I'm going for is the highlight brush that is by Hey Marie Jane, or Hey Marie Jean, advocate profile, who is a fantastic artist, and I'm just going through over scales to give it more of a glimmer and shine to it, and I love this feature. Like I say guys, don't have to be absolutely perfect, but you know, the idea is of scales is that they shine in different areas and everything else, so that's a part I actually really enjoy. So yeah, don't be afraid with it, just go with it, you know. Now that we have done the mermaid, we can now do the background, which I leave to last. So what you do is you make another layer under the whole mermaid thing, and then you start filling in the background. It's the last bit of the whole mermaid thing. It can be your first option to do before you start mapping out animation, but I personally prefer doing it this approach. It's just like, I prefer the animation side of things, where it's just a little bit more get the idea of how to do it. But in some scenarios, if a mermaid is in the ocean, jumping in the water or anything like that, then I will do the animation along with the mermaid animation. But everyone's different to their own, but I just choose to do the background last. But actually that's not a very good approach, but if you're doing something like this that's simple, just keep it like this way. So now that we've got the sand, also adds in some shade to the under the tail, and then I'm going to do the sky. So the idea is it's a hump day, and the idea is you're just relaxing outside of the responsibilities. Everyone's different to their own, so don't be afraid to do your own thing, really. Once you've done the background and everything's all there, you then start doing the process known as layering all over again. The idea of this is that basically when you have merged down the character on the background, you're going to have frames. Now that we've finished all that, we make sure that we put in how many frames we have done. I should have shown this in the previous starting point, but unfortunately, because this is just such an easy animation, if you're going to make a loop about this, you've got to do the numbers. But because this is not exactly the tail is doing exactly the same movement, as in flopping the tail up and down, the tail will move differently when it goes up and down. But with a loop, I'll show you next time. But the idea of the numbers is to help you how many frames you've done once they're all merged down. The maximum of frames for Procreate is 60, so make sure that all your frames that you want is framed down and merged down so you can create a moving sequence of the image here. Once you have finished that, then we can go ahead and then export this film into full export. So well done guys, thanks for watching through this. Now we have got to the exportation part. Now as you can see, frames per second means if it's 10 frames per second, it means it's going to move more fluently and smoothly. The more higher they are, the faster it's going to move. The lower of the number of frames you're going to do, it's just going to move really jittery and slowly, and ideally you kind of want to avoid that. So there's so many options of how many frames per second you want to do. Anyway guys, thanks so much for watching, and I hope this is a helpful tool for you for animation ahead. Thanks for watching guys, bye bye!